I sat alone in the cold kitchen, my thin, trembling hands setting the homemade birthday cake on the table. Today was my 67th birthday. Years ago, on this day, I used to hope for laughter, for children gathered around. But now, only the dry ticking of the faded yellow wall clock kept me company. I wasn't expecting anyone to come. For a long time now, birthdays had been nothing more than ordinary days, sometimes even a source of added sorrow. Yet I still tried to keep a little ritual, as if there were still a reason to light candles, to make a wish. I was used to it, but every so often my heart still ached. A person lives a whole life, and at this age, one should be enjoying some peace surrounded by children and grandchildren. But me, I sat in this shabby house, clinging to loneliness. Just as I sighed, a sudden knock came at the door. 3 urgent raps, breaking through the heavy silence. I startled, my heart pounding, my legs trembling as I walked out. Who could be here at this hour? I had no one left to expect. I opened the door slowly. The porch light spilled in, and then I froze. Standing in front of me was Anna, my daughter, in a thick coat, her breath forming white clouds in the winter night. In her hands was a small bouquet, still glistening with cold dew. Anna, I choked out, eyes filling with tears, unable to believe this was real. How long had it been since I last saw her? Years, ever since she had gone abroad for work. The calls had become fewer and fewer, and I had come to believe she had forgotten me. Anna stepped forward and embraced me. That warm hug made my whole body tremble. It felt as if the darkness in the house had been torn apart, as if the little candle on the cake suddenly glowed brighter. I held her tight, unable to stop the tears. Awkwardly, I led her into the kitchen. All I could set before her was a pot of thin vegetable soup, a few slices of stale bread, and a small cake. I didn't prepare much, I said, ashamed. Anna sat down, smiling faintly, but her eyes wandered around the room, taking in every detail, the yellowed ceiling, the spreading cracks in the walls, the fridge with only a few cheap boxes of food. I saw her brows tighten. Mom, why is the house like this? Anna asked, her voice trembling. Then she looked straight at me. Have you been getting the money I've been sending every month? I froze. The chopstick slipped from my hand onto the table, my heart stopping in shock. What money, Anna? I never received anything. My voice shook, my eyes widening. The air seemed to freeze. The candle on the small cake flickered and went out, leaving behind only a thin wisp of smoke. I watched my daughter's face change, while inside me a chill rose. So, all these years, my daughter had still been sending money. I had believed I was forgotten, but the truth was entirely different. I looked into Anna's eyes and saw not only sorrow, but also suspicion. Suspicion of something much bigger, something I hadn't dared to face. My breathing grew heavy, my hands and feet trembling. A question began pounding in my head: if I never received it, then where did the money go? After that suffocating silence, I tried to reassure her. I forced a smile. Maybe there was some trouble with the bank, or the money got stuck somewhere. Don't worry, Anna. But even I heard the emptiness in my words. My heart thudded wildly, because I had never known about that money. For years I had lived frugally, pinching every penny. Anna set her chopsticks down, her eyes steady and serious on me. Mom, I've been sending it for years. Every month, enough for you to live comfortably. I always thought you were safe, never in want. I even blamed myself for being away too long, for not being here with you. But at least I believed the money made life easier for you. Her words stabbed into my chest. This damp house, the cracked walls, the fridge filled with cheap food all stood as proof of the truth. I hadn't been living comfortably, as Anna thought. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my tone even. Maybe there really was some mistake. I never used the bank account. Since your father died, Henry said I was too old to bother with complicated banking stuff. He told me he'd handle everything for me. I remembered Henry's voice back then, firm yet sweet. "Don't worry, Mom, I'll take care of it. You just need to rest." And I had believed him, because all my life, I had always trusted my son. Anna froze, blinking rapidly, as if piecing together a puzzle. Finally, she whispered. "So, Henry has control of all your accounts?" I nodded softly. Inside, unease surged like an underground current. I dared not think further. I only knew that suddenly, the birthday meal before us had turned tasteless, cold. Anna sat in silence for a long time. I glanced at her hands, clenched and trembling on the table. I knew she was fighting to hold back her emotions. Then she gripped my hand warm and resolute. "It's okay, Mom. I'll check. I need to be sure of everything." I looked at my daughter, my heart trembling with both fear and relief. It felt like I had just planted a seed in parched soil, a seed of suspicion. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay listening to the wind whistling through the cracks of the door, pale moonlight falling on the stained floor. I remembered all the times Henry told me Anna was careless, that she only cared about her career, that she never thought of her mother. Each time, I had been heartbroken, and I had believed him. I had cried in silence, thinking Anna had truly abandoned me. But now, the truth was different. My daughter had sent money, had thought of me all along. The one I trusted most, was he the very one who had hidden everything? The more I thought, the colder my spine felt. Why had Henry insisted on keeping all the papers? Why did he frown and say, "Wasteful," whenever I wanted to buy something? Why had he always reminded me that Anna is selfish? Memories rushed back, stringing together into a blurry yet dangerous outline. My heart pounded faster, my breath grew heavy. I wondered, had I been too naive, too trusting all along? Anna slept in the small room, her breathing steady. I quietly sat at the table, relighting the dying candle on the little cake. The flickering flame cast shadows on my face in the mirror. What I saw was not just a frail old woman, but a mother standing at the edge of a dark truth. I whispered to myself. If it's true, then Henry didn't just deceive me, he drove a wedge between me and my daughter. He built an entire wall of lies. The candle burned a little longer and then went out. In the darkness, I could hear my heart pounding, filled with both pain and determination. The next morning, Anna woke early. Her face looked tired, but her eyes were still bright. She looked at me and asked softly, "Mom, I want to check the account today. Will you agree?" I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Breakfast was nothing but weak tea and a slice of bread. Yet I felt the atmosphere in the house had changed. The seed of suspicion had been planted. And I knew, soon, it would grow, take root, and drag us both into a battle we couldn't escape. I sat motionless at the old wooden table, gripping the teacup too tightly to even drink. I wanted the truth, but I was terrified that opening the door to it would cause my entire world to collapse. Anna opened her laptop, her hands decisive though her eyes revealed unease. I had never actually logged into the bank account. For years, Henry had taken care of everything. "It's okay, Mom. I'll help you recover it," Anna said gently but firmly. She called the bank, verified my phone number, and patiently went step by step until the screen finally lit up. For the first time in my life, I saw the numbers. I leaned back, my hands trembling uncontrollably. My heart pounded, each beat like a hammer strike in my chest. There it all was, regular transfers from Anna, every month, exactly the amount she had said. But then, just a few hours later, all of it was withdrawn. The beneficiary was clearly listed, Henry Gardner. I froze. My throat tightened, my hands covering my mouth, unable to speak. Every dollar my daughter had sent me, never reached me. Month after month, year after year, it had all gone into Henry's hands. "No, it can't be," I whispered, my vision blurring. Anna pointed at the screen, her voice trembling. "Mom, this is the money I sent." He withdrew it all, right after it arrived. "All these years, you lived in hardship, while I thought you were provided for." I felt my whole body collapse. My heart ached, not only from my illness but from the naked truth. I had been deceived, cut off from my own daughter. Anna clutched my hand, her tears on the verge of falling. "Mom, I never abandoned you. I always sent money, it's just that." I squeezed her hand, guilt flooding me, tears streaming down my cheeks. "I know now, Anna. I was wrong to doubt you. I trusted Henry too much." We held each other in that cold room, but I felt a small flame warming my heart. I heard her sobbing against my shoulder. "We'll find the truth. This is only the beginning." I nodded, though inside me a relentless question echoed, "Henry, why did you do this?" That afternoon, I sat again in front of the glowing screen, staring at the cold bank statements. They weren't just numbers. They were knives slashing through my trust. I remembered the day Henry took the computer away from the house, saying, "Mom, you don't need electronics. Old people are easily scammed. Let me handle it." I had nodded, grateful, thinking my son was being thoughtful. Now I knew it was only a way to strip me of the last bit of control. I remembered the times I asked him for a little money to buy a warm coat for winter. He frowned and scolded, "You're wasteful. Save money for more important things." I endured the cold, believing I truly was a burden. But it wasn't because I wasted money, my money was never mine to begin with. Each memory became a puzzle piece, forming a bleak, deceitful picture. I lowered my head onto the table, my hands shaking. The pain in my heart throbbed, sharp and unending. That evening, Anna sat beside me, printing out the statements. She carefully clipped them into a folder, placing it neatly on the table. "Mom, this is evidence. You must keep it safe." I looked at that folder, it felt as heavy as my entire life. That night, I lay in bed, staring into the dark. Henry's words echoed in my ears, "Anna only thinks of herself. I'm the one who takes care of you." I burst into tears. But this time, the tears weren't from self-pity. They were a farewell to all the years of blindness. I whispered to myself, "No more, Henry. I know the truth now. And I won't let you deceive me again." In the days that followed, my body felt strange. My heart often raced, my breath short. Sometimes just standing and taking a few steps made me so dizzy I thought I would collapse. I told myself it was old age, that my weak heart couldn't withstand the harsh winter anymore. Anna looked at me with worried eyes. She spoke softly, but firmly. "Mom, this isn't normal. If you've been taking your medicine regularly, your heart condition shouldn't be worsening this fast." I hesitated, then pointed to the plastic bottle on the kitchen shelf. "Here's the heart medicine I've been taking. Henry buys it for me every month. He said it's cheaper, easier to get, and that I don't need to bother with hospital procedures." Anna picked up the bottle. I saw her frown. The label was sloppy, the print faded, and it only said, "Heart Support Supplement." No doctor's name, no manufacturer information. "Heart medicine, like this?" Anna asked, her voice tight. I stayed silent. A wave of dread rose inside me. Without another word, Anna put on her coat, grabbed the bottle, and walked out the door. "I'll take this to the pharmacy. Wait for me, Mom." About an hour later, she returned. Her face pale, lips trembling. She set the bottle down along with a pharmacist's note. Looking into her eyes, my chest tightened. "Mom, this isn't heart medicine," Anna said hoarsely. "It's just cheap supplements. Worse, it contains ingredients harmful to the heart. The pharmacist said if you keep taking it, your condition will only deteriorate. It could cause dangerous complications." I froze, my eyes widening. My ears rang, all sound fading away. I held the pill bottle, my hand trembling violently. Memories rushed back so many times when my chest had tightened in pain. Henry would say, "Mom, just take another pill, you'll feel better." On nights when I struggled to breathe, Henry would quietly place the bottle in my hand, speaking as if he were bestowing care. And I had swallowed them, trusted him completely, even thanked my son in my heart. I didn't know when my tears had begun to fall. They slid down my cheeks, dropped onto the wooden table, spreading into dark stains. I choked out in a whisper. "So, he's the one who made my illness worse. He knew, and still gave them to me." Anna wrapped her arms around me, her voice breaking. "Mom, we're not going to let him do this anymore. I promise." I leaned against my daughter's shoulder, my whole body shaking. I was no longer crying just out of sorrow. This was a shock, a betrayal that went beyond money, striking at my very life. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, clutching my chest, listening to my erratic heartbeat, each thud painful, each breath heavy with fury. In the darkness, I whispered, "My son, how could you be so cruel? I gave you everything, raised you, worked myself to the bone so you could study. And now you want to kill me, day by day, with these fake pills." I remembered the years of hardship, night shifts stacked on day shifts, calloused hands from endless work, meals where I saved the best bites for my boy. All of it traded for this, a cheap bottle of pills, a trap set inside my own home. I wanted to scream, to smash the plastic bottle to pieces. But instead, I clutched it tightly, as if holding living proof. Proof that Henry hadn't just deceived me, but had betrayed a mother's love to its very core. The next morning, I sat by the window, watching the pale sunlight seep into the room. In my head, two voices battled, one trembled, whispering, "Your son couldn't do this, it must be a mistake," the other was cold and sharp, "The evidence is clear. He has stolen your trust, and now he's stealing your health." Anna brought out a cup of hot tea, placing it before me. She sat down, holding my hand. When I looked into her eyes, I saw unwavering determination. I understood then I wasn't alone anymore. I drew a deep breath and gave a small nod. "Anna, I won't stay silent anymore. Not after learning this truth." Hearing that, Anna squeezed my hand, tears brimming in her eyes. "That's right, Mom. We'll see this through to the end." In the small kitchen, the bottle of fake pills still sat on the table. Sunlight hit the cheap plastic, making its emptiness glaringly obvious. I looked at it, my heart filling with rage but also with a new strength rising inside me. I knew this was only the beginning. But I had crossed the final line of blindness. Henry had pushed me to the edge. And from this edge, I would rise. Ever since the truth about the fake pills came to light, nothing inside me felt whole anymore. Everything was a mix of pain, fear, and a quiet fury. I knew Henry hadn't only lied about money or medicine. There was something deeper hidden, something I hadn't dared to name. Anna saw my despair. She didn't scold me, instead, she held my hand tighter. One evening, Anna turned the bottle in her hand, her eyes darkening. She spoke slowly, as if analyzing aloud. "Mom, if Henry only wanted the money, he already had enough. But why give you fake pills, make you sicker? Making you weaker just raises costs and risks exposing him. The only real purpose must be your death." I went rigid, ice flooding my veins. Images flashed in my mind, Henry thrusting papers in front of me, urging me to sign quickly, always repeating, "Trust me, Mom, no need to read." Anna continued, her voice firm. "The only motive for him to want you dead is life insurance. I'm sure he arranged a policy, and the sole beneficiary is him. That's why I want to ask Mark to check. He works in finance, specializing in insurance records. If there's a scheme, it'll be there." I shivered. Insurance? I had never thought I needed such a contract. My assets were meager, my health frail, all I wanted was enough for medicine and a roof overhead. But I trusted Anna. If she said we needed to check, it meant she already sensed the truth. 2 days later, Mark sent back the information. Anna opened the email in front of me. I remember that moment clearly, the room so silent I could hear the ticking clock, the wind howling outside the window. "There's a life insurance policy in your name," Anna read slowly. I was stunned, sitting frozen. She went on, her voice breaking. "The sole beneficiary is Henry Gardner. The payout is very large enough for him to live comfortably for years." The word struck my ears like hammer blows. My whole body went cold. I tried to breathe, but pain stabbed my chest. Only one thought echoed in my head: he has planned for my death. The paper slipped from my hands onto the table. I clutched my chest, gasping, "No, no, it can't be. Henry, my son, he wants me dead." Tears spilled uncontrollably. I felt myself torn in two, one half clinging to decades of maternal love, the other crushed beneath the brutal truth aimed at me. Anna quickly held me, her voice frantic. "Mom, breathe, stay calm. I'm here. I won't let him hurt you." But my heart raced, my breath fractured. I collapsed in the chair, hearing Anna's panicked voice, the sound of a phone dialing in haste. When I woke, I was in a hospital bed, the bright white lights glaring above me. At my side, Anna held my hand, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She whispered, "Mom, you have to be strong. Don't let him win. Please." I looked at my daughter's face, and a fragile strength swelled in me. I gave a small nod, tears streaming down. I knew if I gave up now, Henry would have exactly what he wanted. I remembered when Henry was little. He used to hug me, promising he'd take care of me when I grew old. I had believed in that promise, clung to it as the greatest comfort of my life. But now, those innocent words were nothing but a veil, covering a greed that knew no bounds. I broke down in tears, but this time, within those tears burned anger. My voice trembled as I whispered, "My son, he wants me dead to take the money. So all these years, I've only been an investment in his eyes." Anna sat beside me, saying nothing, only placing her hand on my shoulder. Her silence felt like a vow. That night, I tossed and turned. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw Henry's smile as he placed the bottle of pills into my hands. Then I saw myself collapsing, while he calmly signed the insurance payout papers. I jolted awake, drenched in cold sweat. I understood then Henry no longer saw me as his mother. To him, I was nothing but a wallet, a contract, a probability of death. Yet in that very moment, I realized, this cruel truth gave me strength. I had nothing left to lose. My trust, my health, even my very life had nearly been stolen. What else was there to fear? I sat up and looked out the window. The night sky was pitch black, but far away, a single star flickered. I felt as if it was telling me, don't collapse. Resist. The day I was discharged from the hospital, I carried a stack of papers, copies of the insurance contract, along with the documents Anna and Mark had gathered. In the cold kitchen, I laid them all out on the table. They were no longer lifeless sheets of paper. They were living proof of a conspiracy. Anna sat across from me, silent. She didn't push, didn't ask questions, only gave me the time to face it all. Her eyes overflowed with love and determination, like a small lamp in a dark room. Tears fell hot down my face. Yet strangely, they weren't just tears of sorrow anymore. In every drop, I felt a heavy but powerful force. Anna took my hand and whispered, "Mom, everything is clear now. But from this day forward, we won't let him control us anymore." I nodded. Inside, something shifted. I had spent my life in blind trust, but now I knew, if I didn't stand up, I would die inside that very trust. I rose slowly and walked to the mirror in the hallway. Reflected back at me was a frail old woman, messy silver hair, eyes swollen from crying. I stared for a long time, then whispered. No more. From now on, no one decides for me. I drew in a deep breath, and even my weak heart seemed to beat stronger. I might not have much strength left, but the truth had given me another kind of energy. After gathering all the evidence into an old box, I knew Anna and I couldn't face Henry alone. My son had gone too far, and what he had done was more than just family deceit. It was crime. The thought chilled me. If we confronted him by ourselves, what other traps might he set? Anna sat down, looking at me, her voice firm. Mom, we need the law. We need someone who can protect you, and me. I stayed silent for a long time. Inside me, fear and resolve collided fiercely. I had never dared to imagine bringing my own son before the law. But then I thought of the fake pills, the death insurance policy. I shuddered. If I remained silent, one day my life might end in the very scheme of my own child. At last, I nodded. You're right. We need someone trustworthy. Anna reminded me of Mr. Dalton, the old lawyer who had worked with our family when my husband was still alive. He had drafted our first will, helped us purchase this house. A gentle, cautious man, and most importantly, a man of principle. Anna called him that very day. I sat beside her, listening to the phone ring, my heart pounding. Then his voice came on, warm, deep, tinged with surprise. Anna. It's been a long time. How are you and your mother? At the word mother, my throat tightened. I didn't know how to answer, but Anna briefly explained. Dalton's tone grew serious. I suspected something was wrong. Henry came to me several times, demanding a full financial power of attorney. I refused, insisting it needed Mrs. Olivia's direct signature. Once, he even brought me a contract with a forged signature. I returned it and warned him. After that, he never came back. I tried to reach you, but I couldn't get through. I was stunned. So Henry had been plotting for a long time, preparing to strip everything away. And I, his blind mother, had never known. The next day, Anna and I went to Dalton's office. The room was just as it used to be, old wooden shelves, the faint scent of paper mixed with stale tobacco. He welcomed us with a kind smile, though his eyes dimmed when he saw how worn I looked. I'm sorry to see you under such circumstances, he said gravely. I said nothing, only placed the evidence box on his desk. One by one, I laid out the documents, the bank statements, the fake pills, the insurance contract. Dalton examined them, his brow furrowing tighter and tighter. This isn't just a family matter. This is fraud, elder abuse, even indirect attempted murder, he declared firmly. My heart pounded. The word murder cut into me like a knife. But I knew it was the truth. Through tears, my voice shook. I trusted him too much. I let him bind me in sweet lies. Dalton looked straight at me, his tone resolute. Mrs. Olivia, you must be strong. Men like Henry only win when you remain silent. The more you fear, the easier it is for them to devour everything. But once you stand up, the law will stand with you. Anna squeezed my hand tightly. I saw the determination in her eyes. She was no longer the child who needed my protection, now she was my pillar. Dalton guided us through the first steps, backing up all the evidence, freezing every account Henry could access, beginning the legal process to regain control of my finances. I listened carefully, my heart both trembling and clear. Each step was like stitching up a torn wound, painful, but necessary. When I signed the first document, my hand shook not from fear anymore, but from the heartbreak of admitting, Henry, the only son I had ever trusted, was now the greatest enemy of my life. On the way home, the cold wind lashed my face, yet strangely, I felt light inside. For the first time, I no longer felt like a frail old woman waiting for fate. I had Anna, I had Dalton, and most importantly I had the truth. That night, the little house lay silent in the cold wind. Anna, exhausted after so many tense days, had collapsed on the sofa, her breathing steady. I sat alone in the darkness, eyes wide open, unable to sleep. I thought of everything Dalton had said, of the papers I had signed in his office. His voice still echoed in my ears, "You only win if you do not stay silent." Memories of my 2 children flooded back like a film reel I couldn't stop. When they were little, Henry and Anna sat together at the old wooden table, Henry struggling to write, Anna playfully piecing together letters. I worked night shifts, then woke early to prepare breakfast for them, giving up the rare bit of meat so they could eat well. I remembered when Henry got his first bicycle, I patched my clothes, ate instant noodles for weeks just to save enough to buy it, while Anna only smiled quietly, never showing a hint of jealousy. And yet now, the son I had once placed so much hope in had become the one weaving traps, plotting against his own mother's health and life. My heart ached not only from betrayal but from the cruel imbalance. On one side, Anna, the daughter who had never stopped caring, on the other, Henry, who had turned a mother's love into a tool for greed. My tears fell, but they were no longer paralyzing. Each drop seemed to wash away layers of blind illusion, leaving behind the raw truth. I had raised both of them, yet one of them wanted to bury me. I lifted my head and looked out the window. The night sky was dark, but I caught a small star glimmering. I knew then I could not stay weak any longer. I whispered, "I've shed enough tears for you, Henry. Now I cry to bid farewell to the son I once knew." My heart beat harder. I felt the shift inside me. For so many years I had endured, stayed silent, trusted blindly. But now, the truth had shattered that shell. I was no longer a fearful mother clinging to the shadow of her son. I turned toward Anna sleeping on the sofa. Her face, though weary, was still gentle like the only light left in my life. She was the one who had pulled me back from the abyss. She had proven I was not forgotten. A cold breeze slipped through the cracks of the door, but I felt a warm flame burning in my chest. I promised myself, from now on, no one would decide for me again. Time crawled, the clock hands moving bit by bit. I sat there wide awake. Every whistle of wind outside, every creak of the roof startled me. But instead of fear, a rare clarity surged inside. I remembered Dalton's words, "The law will stand by you, if you dare to face it." I knew the road ahead would be long and harsh. Henry would not give up easily. He would rage, twist the truth, even threaten. But I had no retreat left. I placed my hand over my chest, feeling the arrhythmic yet strong beat. This old heart might fail at any moment, but I knew it still had enough strength to fight one last battle. When the pale dawn light seeped through the window, I was still sitting there. The sleepless night had passed, yet I did not feel drained. On the contrary, I felt clearer than ever. Anna stirred awake, looking at me in surprise. "Mom, you haven't slept at all." I smiled faintly and shook my head. "It's all right, Anna. I stayed up all night, to bid farewell to a part of my past. From today on, I will no longer be blind." Anna froze, then stepped forward and embraced me. In my daughter's arms, I heard my own heartbeat, weak but steady, trembling yet resolute. I knew this battle was only beginning. But after the long night, I was ready. That afternoon, the sky turned gray, the cold wind whistled through the cracks, carrying damp heaviness. I sat in the living room, the evidence box neatly placed on the wooden table. Anna stood behind me, arms folded, eyes tense. We hadn't said it aloud, but both of us knew, Henry would come. And then came the familiar knock at the door. My heart jolted, but I forced myself to remain calm. The door opened, and Henry walked in carrying a few grocery bags. His voice dripped with honey. "Mom, I bought some more medicine and a bit of food for you." I looked at him, a storm rising inside me. In the past, his voice would have soothed me. Now, every word pierced my heart like a needle. I didn't stand, only asked calmly but firmly. "Henry, for years Anna has been sending me money. Why have I never received it? He froze for a second, then forced a laugh and set the bags on the table. Oh. I handled that money, to pay the bills for you. You don't really know how to manage these things. Anna stepped forward without hesitation. She placed a stack of printed bank statements on the table, her voice sharp. Did you think we wouldn't check? Henry's eyes flicked over the papers, his face paling, though he tried to twist it. I was just holding it for convenience. You've been away, what do you know? I looked straight into his eyes. In them I no longer saw my little boy, only a stranger, cold and calculating. My voice trembled but was firm. And these pills? What have you been giving me all this time? I pointed to the bag of medicine he had just brought. Anna immediately took out the fake bottle, setting it beside the bag, emphasizing every word. We had them tested. This isn't heart medication. It's cheap powder harmful to the heart. Henry's face drained of color, sweat breaking on his temple. He stammered. No, that's not true, maybe the pharmacy gave the wrong pills. I cut him off, my voice like ice. Stop lying. You poisoned me inside my own home. The air grew thick, suffocating. Anna stood behind me, her expression hard. Henry looked around, his eyes darting as if searching for a way out. He forced a weak smile, then snapped. Mom, who's been filling your head with this? I'm your son. I've cared for you all these years. And Anna? She just sends money. How many times has she actually been here? I'm the one who's been by your side. For a moment, I stood still. In the past, whenever Henry said such things, I believed him. I had turned away from Anna, had blamed her in silence. But now, the truth was undeniable, laid bare before me. I drew a deep breath and looked Henry straight in the eye. You took your sister's money, you fed me fake medicine, you turned me into a commodity for an insurance policy. How long do you plan to keep denying it? Henry flinched, his face paling. Clearly, he hadn't expected us to know about the insurance. He stammered. Mom, what are you talking about? Who's been filling your head with lies? Anna stepped forward, her voice sharp as a blade. Enough. The evidence is all here. How much longer are you going to keep acting? The tension was so thick I could hear my own heartbeat pounding. Henry tried to stay composed, but his clenched fists betrayed him, veins bulging on the back of his hand. At last, he slammed his hand down on the table, shouting. How dare you suspect me? I've done everything for this house. I startled, but I didn't retreat. I rose shakily to my feet, my voice trembling but clear. You took everything, Henry. The money, my health, my trust. And now you even want my life. But from now on, I will not stay silent. Henry opened his mouth but couldn't speak. His face flushed red with rage, then drained white with panic. He grabbed his bag, backing toward the door. You'll regret this, he spat out before turning away, slamming the door so hard the house shook. I collapsed back into the chair, breath ragged. Anna rushed to me, wrapping her arms around my shoulders. I shook my head slightly and whispered. It's all right, dear. I'm fine. I just feel relieved. Because at last, I've spoken the truth. Anna squeezed my shoulders, her eyes shimmering but her gaze unwavering. You're not alone anymore, Mom. We'll see this through to the end. Looking into my daughter's face, I saw it clearly. I still had Anna, I still had the truth. And the flame of resistance inside me could no longer be extinguished. The morning after the confrontation, I sat before the box of evidence. This time, I wasn't trembling. I opened the lid and carefully placed everything into a cloth bag, the bank statements, the fake pills, the pharmacist's written confirmation, the death insurance contract. Each piece seemed to whisper to me, bring us to the light. Anna stood beside me, draping a coat over my shoulders. She looked at me with a gentle smile. "Are you ready, Mom?" I nodded. "It's time." We went to Attorney Dalton's office. He opened the door, his eyes briefly surprised at my calm demeanor. I placed the cloth bag on his desk, taking out each piece of evidence, my voice low but firm. "This is my answer to Henry." Dalton stayed silent for a long moment, then nodded. He got to work immediately, drafting an official report to submit to the authorities. Financial fraud. Elder abuse. Intentional harm to health. Death insurance conspiracy. I read each line of the complaint. My heart raced, but my eyes blazed with clarity. When I signed my name, my hand no longer shook. I closed my eyes and exhaled deeply. I felt pain and relief all at once. Pain, because the truth was so cruel. Relief, because there was nothing left to hide. I looked at Anna, her hand clenched tightly, her eyes blazing. I knew then she would never let me face this alone again. Dalton prepared more papers for me to sign. Freeze all old accounts. Revoke all powers of attorney Henry once held. Change the death insurance beneficiary from Henry to Anna. I set my pen to paper, each stroke of ink like a blade cutting through the chains that had bound me for years. I raised my head, my voice firm. I want to make sure that from now on, only I decide what happens with my assets. Dalton replied with conviction. From today, no one else can touch them. A week later, Henry received the summons. I sat in the conference room with Anna and Dalton. Henry walked in, looking unsettled, though trying to keep his composure. His eyes darted around before finally landing on me. In that instant, I realized he no longer saw a trembling old woman, but an adversary. On the table, Dalton set down the thick file of evidence. His words were brief. "Mr. Henry Gardner, every illegal transaction, every fake pill, every insurance document is right here. Do you have anything to say?" Henry argued, denied, refuted every page, every number. But as every angle closed in on him, he froze, his head lowering, shoulders shaking. Then, unexpectedly, tears streamed down his face. He choked out. "Mom. I was wrong. I only wanted to take care of you, but I went too far. Please forgive me. I'm your son." Once, those words would have melted my heart. I would have believed there was still some bond of blood between us. But now, after years of stolen money, counterfeit medicine, and being reduced to a name on a death insurance policy, I looked into his eyes and saw only emptiness. Those tears weren't of remorse, they were a clumsy mask for yet another scheme. I sighed, but there was no sorrow in it. My voice was steady, resolute. "Henry, I once believed those tears. But today, they're only a mask. You can't deceive me anymore." The silence that followed was like a final knife, severing the illusion of maternal love. Anna placed her hand on my shoulder, her touch warm, her gaze certain, "We've already won half the battle." Henry stumbled out of the room in disarray, leaving behind the heavy slam of the door. I sat still, exhaling not with despair, but with release. I knew the law's net was tightening. Henry might thrash, might try to slip away, but the cords of truth had already bound him. I turned to Anna. She smiled, her eyes wet but shining bright. In that moment, I knew, I had reclaimed not only my freedom, but also the bond of motherhood I once thought forever lost. As we left Dalton's office, the winter wind still bit into our skin. But I no longer felt cold. Inside me, a fire still burned, the fire of truth, of justice, and of a mother who had finally risen after years of silence. The trial opened on a spring morning. I sat in the courtroom, clutching my old shawl. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, falling across Henry's face now pale, stripped of the arrogant confidence he once wore. The judge read each charge: financial fraud, elder abuse, forgery, intentional harm to health, conspiracy to profit from death insurance. Each word fell like a hammer blow, but this time, not on me. They landed squarely on the son I had once so blindly trusted. The investigator laid out the evidence, the bank statements, the fake pill bottle, the forged signatures, the life insurance contract. Everything was undeniable. Henry argued, denied, fought back, but the more he resisted, the shakier his voice became, the more his eyes wandered. At last, the judge delivered the verdict. Henry was sentenced to 15 years in prison. The courtroom fell silent. I sat motionless, no satisfaction, no joy. Inside me was only a vast emptiness. That was the moment I let go of my final illusion, the illusion of the son I once held in my arms, once pinned all my hopes on. When we stepped out of the courthouse, Anna linked her arm through mine. The spring sky stretched clear and blue, the breeze carrying the scent of blossoms. I drew in a deep breath, and for the first time in many years, my chest felt light. In the days that followed, I moved in with Anna at her small apartment on the outskirts of the city. It was simple, but bright, flooded with afternoon sunlight. White walls, wide windows, and a vase of fresh flowers always on the dining table. At first, it felt strange. I was used to cold silence, to a shabby house drowning in shadows. But slowly, I learned to open my heart. Every morning, Anna and I brewed coffee together, tidied the kitchen together. Those little tasks suddenly became joys. I remembered the first time Anna brought out a steaming bowl of chicken soup. She smiled and asked, "Mom, do you remember how you used to make this for me?" I looked at the bowl, the rising steam, and tears fell without warning. I remember. But I never thought I'd eat it again, in my daughter's own kitchen. We ate together, our laughter scattering the shadows of all those dark years. Every afternoon, I would sit on the small balcony, watching the sunset drape itself across the rooftops in the distance. My heart was still weak, still skipped with irregular beats, but I felt peace. At least, I no longer lived inside lies. I had stepped out of the trap my own son had built. One evening, Anna placed a cheap bottle of wine on the table. We raised our glasses, smiling in the glow of the sunset. I spoke slowly. "Anna, it took me many years to realize, happiness doesn't come from money or promises. It comes from truth and love." She touched her glass to mine, nodding, her eyes shining. I knew then that we had found each other again, late, but never too late. Sometimes, in the night, I still dream of Henry. Sometimes as the innocent little boy laughing, sometimes as the ruthless man pressing the fake pill bottle into my hand. I would wake, my pillow damp with sweat. But I no longer felt suffocated. I knew dreams were only dreams. The truth was this: I had chosen to keep living, chosen to release illusions, chosen to free myself. One morning, as golden sunlight spilled through the window, I stood before the mirror. The same old face, hair white as snow, but in my eyes, something different, calm. I touched the glass lightly and whispered, "Olivia, you've lived a life of sacrifice. Now you're living in truth. And that is enough." I stepped into the living room. Anna was making breakfast, humming a tune. I looked at my daughter, and gratitude welled up inside me. She was the reason I was still here, still breathing, still able to see the sun. I sat down at the table, breathing in the scent of warm toasted bread, and my heart felt lighter than it ever had. On the last night of spring, Anna and I went to the small park near our home. The breeze was gentle, flowers fragrant in the air. We sat on a stone bench, watching children run and laugh, their voices echoing through the space. Anna turned to me and said softly, "Mom, from now on, we'll start over. No need for luxury, just honesty." I smiled and squeezed her hand. I knew my years left on this earth were few. But at least, in these final years, I would live in truth, in light, and in the embrace of love. I lifted my eyes to the night sky. The stars glittered like witnesses to a new vow. I whispered, "Free, at last, I am free." The lesson in this story lies not only in betrayal, but in awakening. When trust is exploited, silence becomes chains. Truth may wound, but it is the only thing that restores freedom and dignity. No one, not even one's own blood, has the right to turn love into a trap for profit. Each person must hold on to their own voice, their own life. And sometimes, a new beginning only comes when we dare to let go of illusions and face reality with open eyes and a steadfast heart.